My name's Paul Anderson from Uniken. I head up our partnership that we have with Temenos, which we've now had in place for almost 6 years now. We have been a strategic partner with Temenos. So really privileged to be back on stage to talk about the security, the identity and authentication capabilities that we bring to the Temenos platform. Just to introduce Uniken, we have been on the authentication and security scene for over 10 years now, and we have been very much focused on providing customer authentication and customer security solutions. So from the ground up, our technology is designed to help customers interact on digital channels. And that's very much pertinent to the digital channels that you see across banking as well as other regulated industries. And over the 10 years, we now protect, certainly at the last stats that we did last quarter, almost 32 billion interactions, which equates to over 36 trillion US dollars worth of assets protected by our security platforms. But a couple of the stats that we really like to highlight when we're talking to our clients is the fact that security does not need to be a prohibitor for accessing digital services. Historically, it has been, but what we actually find is when you use our technology, the actual client engagement on those digital channels increases between 100 and 300%. And that's because when you make security seamless, people will use the technology more. And that's exactly what we've gone out to achieve. But best of all, the clients that we protect in the last 10 years have had zero financial data or identities lost or stolen in the platforms that we protect. So as I mentioned, Uniken and Temenos, we've had a partnership now for almost 6 years. And what we've done is that we have taken the security and identity capabilities from Uniken and embedded them into the Temenos digital channel products. So the key thing here is that when it comes to security, it's not good enough just to wrap a security layer around your products. Security is so critical that it actually has to be something that's baked into the platform. And together, that's exactly what Temenos and Uniken have done. We've taken our technologies and provided a combined solution which enables you to verify your customers when they are registering to access your services, to identify your customers on a day-to-day basis as they authenticate into your services, and also to enable them to transact on the platforms, to be able to do things and make approvals and verify transactions and so forth when they're actually using the services. And we've embedded that into a number of capabilities that you get from the Temenos digital platform. But one of the key things about security is that quite often when it comes to the customer side of security, we think about strong customer authentication. And that is absolutely a key and vital part of the whole journey, the whole process. But the reality is, security starts the second a customer, or more importantly, a potential customer engages with you. So when you are moving all your kind of onboarding, your origination remotely, and you no longer have the clients coming into your organization, it is a potential that you lose that personality, personal touch. But by designing good solutions with Temenos' origination products, with easy and simple to use identity verification, you can create a seamless and simple way to engage customers early on in the process to make sure that they go through the whole journey and register to use your applications and services. And it's vital that those capabilities are not compromised in any way, especially if you're doing things like scanning national identity documents, using biometrics. You absolutely don't want fraudsters to be able to intercept that transaction at that point. So with our technology and what we've embedded into, for example, the Temenos digital mobile banking app, is a whole mobile threat detection layer. So when the customer launches the Temenos digital mobile app, will immediately scan the customer's device, make sure it's safe and secure, not got any malware, not being compromised in any way, not rooted. We'll check the app is also a valid app, ensure that it's not had any code injections, it's not a malicious app that's maybe been downloaded from a fraudulent app store. And we'll also check your network connection as well, making sure that the customers have a safe and secure network connection, terminating all the way back at transact. And it's not, again, being intercepted on the network, especially when you're connecting on Wi-Fi like what we're using today, which is shared public Wi-Fi networks. And we create a secure connection so that all communications, not just the authentication and the security, but all the transactions that you then carry out within that channel are secured and protected with a mutually encrypted tunneling between the customer's device and transact at the back end. And this technology, allowing you to onboard, will enable you to go through regulatory processes such as your eKYC to verify your customer's identity and so forth. But it's also the anchor to your entire security process. Because what Uniken does is we will then create digital credentials that will allow you to carry on and keep the security throughout the entire customer journey. And those credentials that we generate at that initial onboarding process will then be bound not just to the account which the customer is accessing, but also to the individual themselves through that identity document that we scan as part of the process. So now we're able to link the customer's bank account in Transact with their access point through the digital channel to the individual themselves. So every time the customer connects with you on a digital channel, you know that it's Paul who's coming in and accessing those services based on our multi-layer security and authentication, built on cryptographic keys, built on biometrics, and built on that anchor to their customer identity that they use as part of the identity verification process. But it's not just that initial authentication, that initial access to the digital channel, or it could even be offline channels. It could be used in a telephony, it could be used in branch, it can be used on any channel that your customer engages with you. But it's not just verifying them at that point in time. We can also verify them throughout any transaction they carry out. So if they then choose to transfer funds, make a payment, take out an additional product, you can then have a digitally signed response that verifies that it is Paul who's initiated the transaction, or it's Paul who has made that payment. And we do that through our continuous step-up authentication for those high-risk transactions or any transactions that you do. But another key thing on that is that when we think about step-up authentication, or when we think about that ongoing verification of the customer, again, we're often thinking, well, that's just to make sure that we know that it's Paul who wants to transfer from his current account into his savings account, or transfer money to his son because he's phoned him up and asked for more money again because he's run out. But actually, when you embed technology like this into your platform, you can actually make security an enabler for new business capabilities. Because we have cryptographic keys embedded into the whole process, embedded and securely stored on your mobile device, you can actually then leverage them to digitally sign responses on other capabilities. So for example, Temenos have some great AI capabilities, some great products now around AI, being able to look at your customers, really get an individualized picture of that customer. And from that, you can then send them a targeted offer. At the right point in time, you can identify that they're maybe in a position to take out a loan, or maybe need to have an extra bit of credit for a few months with an overdraft facility or something like that. Temenos provide those capabilities to be able to identify and be able to notify the customer of these options and these products that cannot be offered. What Uniken does is we now give you a real-time response channel so that you can then have customers accept, digitally sign, and have a regulated approval, which is logged in the platform, to say that Paul has now taken out a credit agreement or gone through a buy now, pay later payment and decided to split his payments over the next 3 months. And because we have those cryptographic keys, which are only ever held within the customer's device, which can only be accessed by the customer's biometrics or other authentication factors that only they know, and can only be bound to that person through the secure identity process that we did way back at the beginning of the journey, you then have that regulatory certainty that it was Paul who accepted and took out that loan, or it was Paul that agreed to do the buy now, pay later, or whatever option it is you're offering. So security now is not just something that's a burden that customers have to go through to access and have a look at their bank account, but now becomes an enabler for you to have real-time interactions, real-time products sent to your customers and get that instant response. So no longer do you send them a marketing email and hope that they click through on the link and hope that they maybe download a document and sign it or send it to a third-party service to be digitally signed. They can do it all now in-app, in real time, quickly, easily, and responsive. And that's one of the key areas where we see that increased engagement by up to 300% by the customers leveraging those solutions. Now, a lot of what I've talked about is when you're interacting with your customers remotely, when they are on the end of digital channels or maybe even things like telephony where you can verify, oh, sorry, gone one step too far. But obviously, you know, a lot of organizations today, we still have times where we meet our clients face to face. Oh, there's obviously, apologies, obviously some sort of timer on this slide that keeps moving it. But when we're meeting face to face, how do we verify customers in that situation? Well, what we've done is we've enabled a new authenticator, and I will click back to earlier, but I'm not going to keep moving slides since it's switching back and forth, where we can use palm vein authentication to verify clients in branch. So what we like to say is it's all in your hand. When we're using digital channels and digital authentication, quite often it's in our phone. Our phone is always in our hand. But we can now take the hand and use it for palm vein authentication in branch. I've spoken to a few clients, a few people in the room today at the booth who were telling me how they use things like fingerprint in their banks and their branches. Some of them were telling me the challenges where people have worn fingers and they don't have a read. There's also the challenge today that fingerprint is a contact, so when many people are touching it, there's that whole issue around, how clean, how healthy is that? With palm vein, it's completely contactless. You just hold your hand above a reader and it scans the veins and you get a much more secure read, a much quicker read. So now imagine customers can come in branch and just place their hand over a reader and you can say, Mr. Anderson, nice to have you back in branch and communicating with us today. But it's not just in branch. You can actually take this out into the field. Maybe wealth management. If you have your wealth managers going out to meet clients at their homes, at their businesses, at their offices, they can have a tablet with the palm reader built into their tablet. And obviously, the wealth manager will know who they're talking to. They know their clients personally. But again, for that regulatory approval, when it comes to them then making an action on behalf of their client, you can have their client scan their palm to digitally sign and approve and ensure that happened. So again, you've now got that regulatory binding back to the customer and ensure that they actually authorize that transaction or that fund to be invested in or whatever it is they're doing. So that is our new palm vein biometric technology. We have some readers at the desk. I'm not going to be doing a demo on the stage anymore just to speed things up. But if you want to see this in action, then please do come to our booth and we'll be able to show that. So the slide that's insistent on popping up on the screen is actually the last slide that I have in my presentation today. And it's basically, this is the takeaway, I think, that I wanted to share with everyone. You know, Temenos, with their Temenos digital products, they provide you and your customers with omni-channel banking experiences. They have lots of different capabilities within wealth, business banking, retail banking, all the different capabilities that you get from the Temenos digital product suite. And Uniken, we are the security partner that protects all those channels with a unified customer experience. And the key thing about that is a unified customer experience. So no longer is it that when you use a mobile app, you can use the biometrics on your phone, but then when you go to the web channel, you're suddenly using an OTP that's sent by SMS. Or when you phone up, you have to give your mother's maiden name, and you have to remember the third and fifth character of that password that you set up for telephony banking 6 years ago when you opened your account. That all goes. We can provide a unified experience, all powered by the mobile app, where you can get alerted on your phone and you can approve to speak to the clients on the phone, to speak to your bank on the phone, to approve a transaction, to authenticate on any channel with that unified experience, with that certainty in your hand, whether it be the phone or the palm of your hand yourself. So on that, I just want to thank you, and please, if you would like to see this in action, do join us at our booth, which is just outside in the foyer. Thank you.